A different money. Ben and I were just over halfway through a long national tour of Great Britain, appearing as professional actors in William Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. We were reading our newspapers on a train bound for Hull. I had The Guardian, Ben had a political weekly. Shaking my head in disbelief, I looked up from the article I'd just been reading. "What is it?" asked my companion. I replied in wonder, "I've just read here that a Japanese property developer has just bought a Picasso painting for £51 million. Ben puffed his cheeks. 51 million? For a painting? It is a Picasso, but it's just a painting. I guess that's its value. Ben half closed one eye. You mean its monetary value? Ben had the unique ability to make nitpicking sound endearing. He added, "What about its value to society? What does it contribute to the life of an ordinary person?" "I agree," I said, "but it has an aesthetic value to a collector." "I think it goes beyond that," said Ben. "It's about investment and profit." "You mean this Japanese fellow might not even like Picasso, or even know the slightest thing about Picasso?" "Possibly. But suppose I think I'll bet a Picasso would look pretty good above our fireplace. It's going to cost me 51 mil. I fork out. Wife adores it." "I know where you're leading us, Benjamino." "But will it keep me warm and dry? Will it envelop me in breathless, tender and exhausting love? Will it feed my children?" "It would if you kept it and sold it a few months later for twice the value. And in those few months my children starve. Value indeed." "If you could afford 51 mil for a painting, you could probably afford to feed your kids quite handsomely for a few months. Take out a loan with the Picasso as collateral." Benny's brow furrowed, and I decided to say no more. Ben, however, was warming to his theme. "So it's ceased to become art then, hasn't it, this Picasso? As I say, it's an investment. A monetary investment, in Ben's speak. I'd rather he invested in people, this Japanese fellow of yours, in something that would improve the quality of people's lives. Why didn't he offer 50 and build a hospital with the other million? That's what I'd have done." "Very Christian of you, Ben." "Christian my bike. And anyway, if this Japanese fellow buys a Picasso for 50 million... 51? Pretty significant difference. How does he pay for it? Cash? Cheque?" The practical side to the transaction began to appeal to my imagination. I said, "I wonder whether any money actually changes hands for that amount." Ben laughed. "What would 51 million pounds even look like? In 50s or 20s? One denomination would be more than twice the size of the other. What does 51 million pounds weigh? In 20s it would weigh more than twice the amount in 50s. "OK, let's work it out," said Ben, shuffling forward in his seat. "Do you suppose the thickness of one £50 note is the same as the page of a novel?" "Thinner, maybe? Hardly by much, though. I don't know, actually." "OK, my eldest son, right, he's doing French literature, and the other day he brought home a paperback copy of Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. That's 1,000 pages, and it's 2 inches thick. So £1,050 notes is 50,000. So 20 copies of Hugo's novel in £50 notes is £1 million, right? So 50 million, 51, is, wait a minute, 1,020 copies of Les Miserables in £50 notes. So 50 million is 100,000 copies of Les Miserables plus 20 copies for the extra 1 million, and you are surrounded by wads of notes until you can no longer see over the top of them all. You can't even reach the door of your front room. So you buy a painting with it all, just to clear space. Then all your money is tied up in your painting. You can't buy food for your children with a painting, so you sell it. But it's increased in so-called value to 60 million, which means another 180 copies of Les Miserables on top of the ones you had before. You're buried alive in paper. You'd be surrounded by money. Buried alive. What else could you possibly see?" "Admiring your maths here, Ben. But it's a pretty clear illustration of how all-consuming capitalism is. And as for 1,200 copies of Les Miserables, what are you going to do with those? Not even a charity shop will take them off your hands. Must have paid by cheque. One cheque. One bit of paper instead of, oh, hang on, how many thousands of paper banknotes? Very clever, but ultimately the money has to come from somewhere, hasn't it?